If you are over 60, this video might be one of the most important things you watch today, because we are going to talk about 7 specific things that millions of seniors do every single day, things that feel completely normal, things that nobody ever told them to stop, things that are quietly and significantly working against their health in ways that compound over time. Some of these are daily habits. Some are foods or substances. Some are behaviors that feel responsible and sensible but are actually causing harm for someone in this specific stage of life. By the end of this video, you are going to have a clear picture of exactly what to stop, why each one matters, and what to do differently. Stay until the very end, because the 7th thing on this list is one that almost no senior suspects, and it may be the one causing the most silent damage of all. Before we get into the list, let's be clear about something important. This is not about creating fear or telling people that everything they enjoy is dangerous. It is about recognizing that the body at 60, 70, and 80 is genuinely different from the body at 30 or 40, and that certain habits and behaviors that were either neutral or manageable at younger ages carry different consequences later in life. The research on healthy aging is clear on this. The behaviors and choices that matter most for health outcomes shift as the body changes, and what keeps someone thriving after 60 is often significantly different from what worked for them at 40. With that context in place, let us get into the 7 things. The first thing to stop immediately is taking over-the-counter sleep medications regularly. This is one of the most common and least discussed health risks for seniors, and it catches most people completely off guard. Many older adults who struggle with sleep reach for over-the-counter sleep aids, often containing an antihistamine as the active ingredient, assuming that because they are available without a prescription they must be safe for regular use. But these medications have significant anticholinergic properties, meaning they block a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine that is critical for memory and learning. The brain's acetylcholine system is also one of the systems most affected in Alzheimer's disease. Research has found that cumulative exposure to anticholinergic medications over years is associated with a meaningfully elevated risk of cognitive decline and dementia in older adults. Beyond the cognitive concerns, these sleep aids suppress the natural stages of deep sleep rather than promoting natural sleep architecture, meaning the sleep they produce is less restorative than genuine natural sleep. For any senior who has been relying on these medications more than occasionally, discussing alternative strategies for sleep improvement with a doctor is a genuinely important next step. The second thing to stop is eating large meals late in the evening, particularly within 2 to 3 hours of going to bed. This habit is widespread, often driven by the patterns of a busy daytime schedule, and most people do not realize how significantly it affects both sleep quality and cardiovascular health in older adults. Large evening meals require the digestive system to remain active during what should be the body's recovery period, disrupting the quality of overnight sleep and reducing the restorative value of those hours. For people with acid reflux, which becomes increasingly common after 60, eating close to bedtime dramatically worsens nighttime symptoms and the damage that stomach acid can cause to the esophagus over time. And from a cardiovascular perspective, eating large meals in the evening is associated with worse blood sugar management, higher overnight blood pressure, and increased triglyceride levels compared to eating the same food earlier in the day. Shifting the largest meal of the day to midday and keeping evening meals light and early is a change that research consistently associates with better metabolic and cardiovascular outcomes in older adults. The third thing to stop is spending the majority of waking hours sitting. This sounds obvious when stated plainly, but the reality is that most people over 60 spend the bulk of their day in a seated position, and many do so without any awareness of the specific health consequences of prolonged sitting that are now well documented in the research literature. Prolonged sitting slows the circulation, particularly in the lower legs, increasing the risk of blood pooling and clotting. It reduces the activity of the enzymes responsible for breaking down blood fats, contributing to higher triglyceride levels. It is associated with increased blood sugar and worse insulin sensitivity. And perhaps most importantly for seniors, Extended sitting promotes the muscle loss called sarcopenia that accelerates dramatically after 60 and is one of the primary drivers of loss of physical independence. Breaking up sitting with movement every 30 to 45 minutes, even if only for 2 to 3 minutes of standing, walking, or gentle activity, produces measurable metabolic and cardiovascular benefits that are distinct from formal exercise. The fourth thing to stop is using anti-inflammatory pain relievers like ibuprofen and naproxen regularly. These medications are available over the counter and are widely used by seniors for managing chronic joint pain, back pain, headaches, and other common sources of discomfort. Most people who take them regularly have no idea that this habit carries specific and significant risks for their age group. For seniors who are on blood pressure medications, particularly ACE inhibitors or ARBs like lisinopril or losartan, the combination with anti-inflammatory pain relievers creates what doctors call the triple whammy effect, a dangerous interaction that can cause acute kidney injury. Beyond this specific interaction, regular anti-inflammatory use in older adults is associated with increased risk of gastrointestinal bleeding and can raise blood pressure and worsen fluid retention. For seniors managing chronic pain with these medications on a regular basis, a conversation with a doctor about safer alternatives is an important and overdue conversation to have. The fifth thing to stop is skipping strength training under the assumption that it is only for younger people or those who want to build muscle for appearance. This is one of the most consequential misconceptions about health after 60, and the cost of acting on it is enormous. After 60, the body loses muscle mass at a rate of approximately 1 to 2% per year in the absence of resistance exercise, and this muscle loss is directly connected to falls, loss of balance, reduced bone density, worse metabolic health, slower recovery from illness, and ultimately the loss of physical independence. The research on resistance training in older adults is extraordinarily consistent. People who engage in regular resistance exercise, even starting in their 70s or 80s, show meaningful improvements in muscle mass, bone density, balance, strength, blood sugar control, and overall physical function. Resistance exercise does not require a gym membership or heavy weights. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, and light dumbbells are all effective. What matters most is that some form of muscular resistance is being applied regularly in a way that challenges the muscles to adapt and maintain their mass and strength. The sixth thing to stop is ignoring social isolation or accepting loneliness as an inevitable part of aging. Chronic loneliness has been associated with faster cognitive decline, weakened immune function, higher rates of depression and anxiety, increased levels of systemic inflammation, higher blood pressure, and a significantly elevated risk of early mortality. The magnitude of the health risk associated with chronic loneliness is comparable in some studies to the risk associated with smoking. For seniors whose social networks have contracted through retirement, the deaths of peers and family members, or reduced mobility, actively rebuilding and maintaining social connection is not a luxury. It is a health intervention with consequences as real as any medication or dietary change. The seventh thing, and the one that surprises almost everyone, is stopping medication without telling your doctor, including reducing doses, skipping days, or discontinuing medications because blood pressure, blood sugar, or another measurement looks good. This is one of the most common and most dangerous health behaviors among seniors, and it happens for completely understandable reasons. Medication feels like a burden. The side effects are sometimes uncomfortable. When numbers look good, it is natural to assume the medication is no longer needed. But for the most common chronic medications seniors take, particularly blood pressure medications, blood thinners, and medications for heart rhythm, stopping or reducing without medical guidance can have rapid and serious consequences. Blood pressure that has been controlled by medication can spike dramatically within days of stopping. The safe approach is never to make these changes unilaterally, but to bring the concerns, the side effects, the financial pressures, or the desire to reduce medication burden directly to a doctor who can work with these realities to find a safer path forward. Now let's connect these 7 things because they share a common thread. Each of them reflects a way in which the body after 60 responds differently to choices and behaviors than it did at younger ages. The anticholinergic sleep medications that were less harmful at 40 become significantly more dangerous in a brain that has less reserve. The large evening meals that a younger metabolism handled without consequence contribute more directly to cardiovascular and metabolic disruption in an older body. The sedentary hours that a younger musculoskeletal system could absorb produce accelerated muscle loss in an aging body. The pain relievers that carried manageable risk at 30 carry compounded risk in an older person with reduced kidney function. The resistance training that younger adults might consider optional becomes genuinely essential for preserving physical independence. The social connections that younger adults can sometimes afford to deprioritize become a genuine biological necessity. And the medication management that could be more casual in youth requires precision and medical partnership in a body where multiple systems are being managed simultaneously. Let's go a bit deeper on a few of these points, because some deserve more explanation than a brief mention allows. Starting with the muscle loss issue, which is arguably the most underappreciated health risk for seniors across the board. Most people are aware of bone density loss after 60, and many seniors take calcium and vitamin D in response to this concern. But the parallel loss of muscle mass and strength receives far less attention despite having at least equally significant consequences for health and independence. Muscle is not passive tissue that simply enables movement. It is one of the most metabolically important organs in the body. Muscle tissue is responsible for a significant proportion of the body's glucose uptake after meals, meaning that maintaining muscle mass directly supports blood sugar control. Muscle produces signaling molecules that support brain health, immune function, and bone maintenance. And muscle is what allows a person to stand up from a chair without assistance, to climb stairs, to carry groceries, to catch themselves when they stumble, and to maintain the physical independence that most people consider non-negotiable for their quality of life. Resistance exercise is the only intervention with strong evidence for preserving and rebuilding this capacity, and the research shows it is never too late to start. The social isolation point also deserves more depth, because the mechanisms by which loneliness damages health are more specific and more biological than most people realize. Chronic loneliness activates the body's stress response systems in a sustained way, elevating cortisol and adrenaline over the long term in ways that increase inflammation, suppress immune function, disrupt sleep, and damage blood vessels. The body responds to social isolation as a biological threat, and the health consequences of this sustained threat response are cumulative and real. This is part of why rebuilding social connection after a period of isolation sometimes produces surprisingly rapid improvements in mood, sleep quality, and even physical health markers. The medication management issue is also worth exploring from the perspective of why it is so common and so difficult to address through standard healthcare approaches. Most seniors who stop or adjust their medications do not tell their doctor, which means the doctor continues prescribing under the assumption that the patient is taking what has been prescribed. This creates a cycle in which the actual problem, which is often a manageable side effect, a financial concern, or a misunderstanding about what the medication is doing, never gets addressed. The single most important thing any senior can do to improve this situation is to bring complete honesty to every medical appointment about exactly what they are actually taking, what they are skipping, and why. This information, delivered without fear of judgment to a healthcare provider who receives it without judgment, is the foundation of medication management that actually reflects and serves the real situation rather than an imagined one. Before we close, this video is for general educational awareness only and does not constitute personalized medical advice. Any changes to medications, significant dietary changes, or new exercise programs should be discussed with a doctor who knows your individual health history and can assess what is appropriate for your specific situation. If this video gave you something useful to act on, please share it with a senior in your life who needs to hear this, because this is exactly the kind of practical, specific health information that most people over 60 never receive clearly enough to actually use. If you found this video helpful, Please like it and subscribe to Dr. William Hart Health for more videos like this every day.